Hi everyone, another long video. It's gonna be about 10 minutes long, and my first one is about Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was born in Johnstown, New York, and died in 1815 and died in 1902 in New York, New York. She was also a suffrage person for the women's march for suffrage. She was freaking mad about it. I mean, really mad. And so she walked with suffrage, with the person who started it all. It was Susan B. Anthony. Now let's move on to John Marshall. He was a former Chief Justice of the USA. Served from 1801 to 1835. He was given the job by President John Adams. But sadly, he died in 1835. Now moving on to Joseph Smith. Then Amelia Earhart. He was an American religious leader. He lived from 1805 to 1844. Because his life was cut short because of an assassin. He was an American religious leader. He wasn't that old, but we still remember him as a very great person. Next up, Amelia Earhart. She flew a plane across the Atlantic, and she made world-breaking records. She almost flew across the entire world, but it stopped because she died. She died in a plane. She died. She was almost to America, but she was going to land on a Hawaiian island or somewhere near, like Guam. Yeah, Guam. But then they ran out of fuel and crashed. She is remembered as someone great. Now moving on to the next person, Ernest Hemingway. He lived from 1899 to 1961. He died 20 days before his birthday, 1961. He was a novelist. He had a strong influence in the 20th century, and he was and more. He was a journalist too. Okay, moving on to Margaret Sanger. She was also an American activist. She lived from 1879 to 1966. She wanted civil rights too. She really wanted to get some stuff done, and she did. She had the first birth control clinic in the USA. Now moving on to Helen Keller. She was blind and deaf, but someone helped her, and she met presidents during her lifetime. The last president she met was JFK or someone else. She was born in 1880. At 1 or 2, she got blind and deaf. She got mad, and 19 months to be exact. She wasn't even 2 years old. She was freaking mad. She died June 1st, 1968. The, now, Eli Whitney. He was a good man. He served his life from December 8th, 1965 to 1825. He invented the cotton gin, which in the South made everything to explode. He just didn't care. And he didn't in 1820. Jefferson Davis. He was the president of the Confederate States of America. From 1861 to 1865. They were going to win, but they lost. He lived 1808 to 1889. And also, let's do someone new. Robert F. Kennedy, if that's okay for you. He was an attorney general, and he was running for president in 1968, but sadly he was assassinated too, just like his brother JFK. 1925 to 1968. He was years younger than his brother. It was very smart. He wanted to help. He wanted to lead America, but sadly he was assassinated by an assassin. Next up is John Brown. He was an abolitionist. He lived from 1800 to 1859. And people in the North loved him very much because he freed slaves. He was an abolitionist. Next up will be Clara Barton. She founded a hospital. She helped soldiers during the Civil War, Confederate and Union. Her first patient was her brother. He jumped off the roof of the farm, and then he got hurt real bad. And Clara helped him. She founded the American Red Cross. Next up is Noah Webster. Noah Webster Jr. to be exact. He books taught 5 generations of American children how to spell and read. He lived from 1758 to 1843. He almost lived for 100 years, but he died almost into his 90s. He died soon to be in his 90s. Or maybe he was in his 90s. Yeah. Lastly, we have John Jay. He was a former governor of New York, 1745 to 1829. Who was a statesman, patriot, diplomat, founding father, abolitionist, negotiator, and the signature with the Treaty of Paris in 1783. He was the first Chief Justice. Now, if you want to learn more, you can just click that subscribe button down below. Lastly, we have Walter Lippmann. He was an American writer, and he lived from 1889 to 1974. In the Cold War, he helped, and more. Please subscribe, and if you like this video, click a thumbs up and hit the big Liberty bell. Ding, 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 ding.